SNV, or Netherlands Development Organization, in a project called CRAFT, the Climate Resilient Agribusiness for Tomorrow. I'm responsible for agribusiness development, which cuts across various value chains that we're working. And this particular project is aimed at building towards food security through climate smart agricultural practices. And some of the main key aspects we are looking at is on increasing productivity, increasing the incomes, and ensuring that the farmers are able to adopt the climate smart practices and technology.
Okay. Yeah. Why did you call it agribusiness for tomorrow? Why not today?
Thank you very much. Interesting, yeah. We were actually looking, one of the key aspects and the principle of this particular project is the issue of sustainability. We are looking at the issues of also scaling. And this is in recognition of the fact that food security is important not only for today, but even more important for tomorrow. So we are looking much more at the future. How can we have our ecosystem being there? We are utilizing it in a way that we are taking care that it is still going to serve even the next generations. So that's why we are really, looking at it for tomorrow to ensure that what is done today is actually recognizing what the effect that is going to have for tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. Now let's talk about the topic of the day. That is market linkages for farmers, especially the small-scale farmers. Why did CRAFT decide to focus on market linkages for now?
CRAFT is a project which is, I would say, it is majorly on two particular pillars. One of the pillars is farmer-led, and this is where we want to make the big difference in terms of the practices on farm and the access to market. The other aspect is private sector-led. Why this project is like that is from experience of other development projects. We've seen that quite a number of projects have been there where probably there's been more emphasis on productions, on the soft issues to do with how the farmers are organized, or things to do with access to inputs and all that. But we know one of the biggest trigger and the highest point of leverage for the farmers to be able to continue and sustainably continue with their production, it's when they have the money to be able to reinvest in their production process. And for them to have that particular money, what only can bring into that is when they have got effective markets that are able to take their produce. So that is why we are emphasizing on market, because the market, if you look at it in a wider perspective, it is what should drive the production at the farm level, and even all through the other processes that are in between the production level and the ultimate consumer. Because if we were to produce for the market, we have to make decisions at the production level that are market informed, that they are aware of the market signals right from the word go. They know what varieties required, they know what attributes, they know what volumes and when.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe you can paint us also a little picture of how the situation is at the moment, especially with that small-scale farmer down in the village, when it comes to them and accessing the market.
Thanks for that question. I would say the situation, and I would really I want to focus on staple crops. And these staple crops, I'll talk about potatoes, beans, green grams, and sorghum, because that is mainly what we are focusing in CRAFT. And I would say basically the issues that are there on the ground, they cut across all the enterprises at the farm level. Ordinarily, if you look at our farmers in terms of the practices they employ and the decisions they make, more often the smallholder farmers do not understand what the market requires. They make decisions that probably are influenced by, it's going to rain in the next month, my neighbor is doing potatoes, or I found my father, my uncle, and my auntie doing green grams, they continue doing the green grams. What variety of green grams, how to apply the agronomy practices on farm, they are not, they do not think through about that. So why we are talking about the issues of the market is those challenges are actually the ones that make our farmers miss out on the market opportunities. They miss out on sizing those particular opportunities, because you'll go to the market actors, the big buyers, and they'll actually tell you, we do not have potatoes. and yet potatoes are rotting somewhere on the road. We have got green grams that are, being infested by weevils in farmer stores. And when they're telling you there are no green grams or there are no potatoes, it's because the quality, the variety, it is not there with the farmers. And this is because the farmers, when they were planting and taking care of their green grams on farm, they were not cognizant of what the market requires. So that is where we want to come in with craft and try to see how we can be able to bring both the backward market linkages and forward market linkages such that there can be, some good linkage whereby the production is actually done according to the attributes and the demands and, what is required for in the market. And at the same time, the market knows, for example, where to get the right variety of potatoes, the right varieties of green grams. Okay. So we are working both from the supply and the demand end, mostly being driven by the private sector because those are the ones who are, much more, have higher leverage on making the difference along the value chain. But to be able to do that, we involve even the service provider along the various value chain.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You said most of our farmers have been doing things the way their fathers were doing them, their grandfathers were doing them. So now that when you go back to the farms, you visit them, how are they receiving the message that you're bringing to them that it's time they start working from the market backwards? You look for the market first, then you grow the right crop for the market.
Thanks. I think the approach in which you are using actually is from evidence we collected from the challenges on the ground. And the evidence is today, talk to any smallholder farmer, they will talk about the biggest challenge we have is market. Go to Nyandaro about the potatoes, go to Nakuru, go to Meru, they'll always tell you it's the issues on the market. So at that particular point, we pause and tell them, okay, the market probably has got no big challenges as such, but are we having the right commodities that the market requires? At the same time, we are also telling the processors, the big buyers at the ultimate terminal market, can we have a conversation? Can we have linkage? Can we have a relationship with people along the chain so that this information, these requirements that you need can be able to actually cascade downwards such that when the production is done, is actually, informed by the needs you have. And we, through some of the SMEs we have worked with at the market level, they've really been able to do this very well because right from production, they assist the farmers to get inputs, they assist on extension services, and they assist even on harvesting and post-harvest handling. And this has made the farmers actually recoup some of the, the losses they were going through. And this is something that we see that beyond the project, it is an approach that is going to be self-propelling. Because if the farmers are linked to the market and they are able to get the money, then they can be able to keep on reinvesting in their farm and serving the markets that are there. And for food stuff, especially the staple food, the markets are growing every other day. The demand is there.
Okay. And do the farmers receive this information in a positive way? And also, if I may ask, where can they also get this information about market linkages?
Thanks. Yeah, I do recognize where you're coming from, and I would say that for the farmers, there are quite a number of challenges on the ground. One thing is, even when you're talking about the varieties or the seeds, the good quality seeds, the good inputs, how to prepare the land and all that, some of this information is not on the ground. So as a development project, we are working very closely with the government and other extension service providers on the ground to ensure that the farmers are, given this particular information in a way that they own the process. One of the ways we are doing this is through the farmer field schools, where farmers select a particular plot. This is farmer groups, and then through the extension service providers on the ground, supported even by the market actors and agro input processors, come together and demonstrate, for example, if it's sorghum, what kind of variety, how should they plant, how should they prepare the land? Instead of doing the plow thing, they can do the tilling, and then they do the planting, and then how do they go through the weeding and other, agro management on the farm? When it comes to harvesting, we are really insisting on them going on threshers, which makes it, they have the harvest, the product more clean, and the losses are highly reduced. And then, of course, by having that kind of a product, you have got the market offtake person on the other end. So we are working with quite a number of actors, the government, the county government departments on the ground, and the private sector. As a development agency, we are very, very keen in terms of seeing where the gaps are so that we can feed in. And we are feeding in through what we are calling it a climate innovation and investment fund. So we know there are some challenges that are on the ground that ordinarily private sector are not willing to invest because it does not pay immediately.
Okay.
But for the long term, it is very, very important. So we come in and partner with the private sector where we agree this is a challenge probably through a business plan. It is about 100,000. Do 50%, we do 50%. And by so doing, we actually now start making the forces of, the market forces, supply and demand start working. And at the end of the day, you also see all the private sector now coming into place, and the whole thing starts self-propelling. It's not only the buyers and the producer. You also find even the banks, the financial institutions, they are very interested when they see, those kind of business things happening. And they come in terms of offering, credit to farmers, credit to agro input suppliers at the local level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, as you talk about to the farmers, or when you try to teach them on how to find the link to the market, in the process, there is this man who for a very long time was known as the middleman, who has been the link between the farmer and the market. So how are you handling the middleman, having in mind the same middleman came from the same community? So when you come and tell me I can link you directly to the market,
yes,
my neighbor has been my link. How has that been, or how has that been played?
Good question. And I would say this: a market is a dangerous place. I mean, when you go into the market, you go there with, it's cutthroat competition. And one of the aspects, because we also look at our, our economic operating systems in terms of open markets and all that, we know what empowers one to be able to negotiate and engage the market effectively. It's the information that you have. That's one. Two, there are other things like the economies of scale that you need. And for example, like farmers need to, one of the main things they have control about is to control their costs of production. Because in the market sometimes it's a bit dicey. But what we are saying is this, and I would like to call them, as rightly I've called them the middlemen, they actually have more information than the farmers have. They understand the markets better, and they know that the farmers do not have the information. So what we are saying is, these farmers, how do we make the farmers have that particular information to be able to engage the markets better? Or how do they have an intermediary, either a farmer enterprise or, they get into arrangements like the contract farming, such that they already have the information in advance about what they expect from the market. And by so doing, actually you'll find that these middlemen, on the process of doing it because they're entrepreneurs, they start, I would use this word because of what we're having currently today, they start sanitizing themselves in a way that now they can engage the farmer in a better terms rather than taking so much from the farmer. So I would say what is the most important is to see how farmers get that particular information. We know not all the farmers can be able to engage or negotiate on the market. Then how do they have enterprises or institution framework that is going to support them to be able to do that?
Okay.
Yeah, so, and I would say it is gaining ground. It's not something that you can say it's like switching in on and off, but that should be really the way to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how also are you helping these farmers to ensure that even when they go directly to the market, they don't get exploited further by the market itself, so that they can be able to negotiate for a better price than they would have gotten originally?
Yeah, one of the things that we are looking at, we are also looking at how does the market behave. For example, if you go to the market and you're having only about 100 kilograms of green grams, what leverage what strength do you have in terms of engaging a market actor? Very small. But if the farmers can take to the market about 10 tons or 20 tons of the green gram, the right quality, well packed and well taken care of, no impurities and all that, you find that they are able to actually negotiate in a better way. And this negotiation we are talking about, just like I had said before, it's not each and every farmer can negotiate. So these farmer enterprises, through the capacity building that we do as a development organization, we are taking them through trainings that will ensure that they understand how to negotiate. They understand what are the issues, their value proposition to the market to make it stronger. And the other aspect we are looking at, nowadays in marketing we are looking at long-term client relationship. And when it is like that, then you are able actually to arrange and organize your prices, not just every other season, but for a longer term. And this is preferred even by most of the big market actors because you reduce the time of procurement every other time. So by so doing, we are engaging the farmers and the market actors to start having this kind of long-term relationship so that every other season, it is not a renegotiation sort of, a process, but they can tell over the time and how the market is going to respond, what kind of prices. But of course, the farmers have really to understand beyond those market actors how the other consumer market is responding so that at least they can be able to gauge to what extent can they be able to negotiate for prices. Okay. But the biggest control the farmers, I would say they have, and this is why we are insisting on climate smart agriculture, it's for them also to increase their margin by reducing their cost. Okay. Yeah, because that will be very important. The market might not be very elastic, but the control of costs will also give them that particular leverage to have a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah. When we talk about the control of their cost of production, what ways are you maybe during your trainings teaching them ways in which they can use to make sure that they produce at the very lowest cost so that they can maximize at the market?
Thank you. To start with, we would say that with market-informed decisions on the ground, farmers are able to, for example, apply technologies that improve on their productivity. So productivity per unit will go quite high, which will have the effects now of having, lowering the cost. The other aspect that we are looking at is at a farmer level, individually, if they have to keep on buying fertilizer per person, 5 kilos, 10 kilos and all that, the cost of that 1 kilo and 20 kilos will be quite high because they'll have to, go through the distribution channel when they have to get everything from the retailer. But as encouraging them to kind of form farmer enterprises, the enterprise in itself could actually be able to get that fertilizer at a distributor's price. And by so doing, it actually makes the farmers enjoy the economies of scale. And beyond that, we are talking also of even the extension on the farm. When it comes to harvesting, mechanizations, they are able to engage better as a bigger group rather than individuals. And all this really brings the cost down. So I think one of the most pivotal aspects about the farmers to be able to engage effectively, I would say that institutional structure for the farmers is very, very critical. And yeah, we've had a big challenge about this. I think from our cooperative movement, you understand what the challenges have been there. We're trying to see what kind of enterprises that the farmers can buy in and enjoy those economies of scale. But it's very, very important we go through that direction. Because our focus is much more on the small-scale farmers, who we are talking about maybe from half an acre to a maximum 5 acres.
Yeah. Okay. Talking of economies of scales and cooperatives, I understand a number of farmers are from cooperatives, especially the small-scale farmers. So in your trainings, do you also engage the cooperatives, or you deal with individual farmers?
Thank you very much. In our engagement with farmers, we engage with both organized and unorganized groups. And the essence is we are looking at, especially if there is a particular interest to be able to adopt the climate smart agricultural practices, and at the same time, the commercial aspect. Because also when you're talking about these particular farmers, you're not talking about the farmers who are just purely doing subsistence farming. We are looking at those on the borderline, that they can go a bit of commercial and they're having the food for home. So at this particular point, when we find some loose farmers, through the SMEs and the buyers we link them up to, they are normally encouraged to form enterprises or groups. But this one is really dependent. The decision is upon the farmers, whether they want to form groups or a company or a cooperative and all that. And where we're finding the cooperative, actually cooperatives are very, we are very attracted to the cooperatives much more, because we know in terms of engaging them and doing, a bit of capacity building and all that, they are quick wins. Yes, and they're able to benefit easily the economies of scale at the inputs level, and the penetration of the market is much stronger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Earlier on, you talked about whatever craft is doing is informed by research. I don't know whether you have, from the research you've done, the amount of crop that the farmers have been losing before in terms of post-harvest losses because of that lack of market.
Thank you for that. I would say there have been quite a number of studies that have been done. We did a lot of assessment when we started the craft project. And just to give an example, which also, because we also use a lot of partners. As an institution, as SNV, we might not be able to do everything.
Okay.
But because of that, we use the multi-stakeholder processes, whereby we also invite other development partners, including the government. And for example, like there was even a study that was done by GSE on potatoes, where we are talking about post-harvest losses for potatoes of 19%. Okay. And I would say this is quite conservative. It could be probably higher. And when you go to the grains, and in terms of the post-harvest issues on storage and the weevils and all that, we do not have the empirical figures that I can be able to tell you exactly now. But I can tell you by my own speculation that it could be even over 40–50%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just hold it there. I'm being advised we take a short commercial break, and then we'll be back shortly. For our viewers back at home who are just joining us today on Agri Talk, today we are talking about market linkages, especially for smallholder farmers. And with me in studio is Alphonse Mureu, who is a senior agribusiness advisor at Kraft that also works with SNV. We'll be back shortly.
Agriculture was previously a function of national government under the Ministry of Agriculture. It is currently a devolved ministry, no longer under the sole control of the national government.
The biggest producer of Irish potatoes in this country is Elgeyo Marakwet, because the production has been concentrated around Mount Elgon alone. That's about 3–4 wards.
It was expected that devolving this key ministry would lead to better agricultural production at county level.
Our plan from this year is to plant in 22 wards. In other words, we are going to increase production by more than 10 times.
To find out how your county and others have taken up this role, watch Iron County every Monday and Tuesday from 6 p.m. only on KTN Farmers TV. Agriculture both contributes to climate change and affected by the effects of the same. Before reaching our plates, food is produced, stored, processed, packaged, transported, prepared, and served. At every stage, food provisioning releases greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So, how can we sustain food nutrition and security through climate-friendly farming practices?
Techniques that we can allow, of course, the women who are the backbone of agriculture that really contribute to development and to ensure food security in a very smart way, in a very sustainable way, so that they really minimize the harm to the environment.
To learn more, watch Climate Smart Agriculture every Saturday from 7:30 p.m. only on KTN Farmers TV.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with KTN Farmers TV. Today on Agri Talk, we are talking about the farmer linkage, linking farmers to the market. That is farmer linkage, market linkage, I mean. And with me in studio, as I earlier introduced him to you, is Alphonse Murray, who is a senior agribusiness advisor at Kraft that works also with SNV. Before we took a break, you were telling us a little bit about with the way you work with the challenges farmers are facing, especially when it comes to post-harvest losses. I don't know whether you can remember the point where you are. You had talked about the number of amount of potatoes is 19% roughly.
Yes.
So how is the situation for the other crops?
Yes, I mentioned this 19% because it's a very detailed study, especially on potatoes that have already been carried out, and thanks to GIZ for that. I think it's a credit to them. But for grains, and this one I'll specifically say beans and green grams, I would say the challenge is much more higher, and the losses could be much more higher. We have not carried out a very empirical study to be able to say, but my own speculation, this will be to the tune of about 30 to 40%. And this is aggravated more by the fact that the farmers are not able to get market opportunities immediately after harvest. So the storage kind of quality they normally have, they get predisposed to pest infestation, the contamination by the aflatoxin, and those kind of things. So that's why you find those losses going a little bit higher.
Okay. Yeah. There's also this thing that has been going on out there that majority of our farmers, or most of our farmers, are either old. They say the age of an ordinary Kenyan farmer is over 60 years old.
Sure.
I don't know what effect does that have when it comes to when Kraft comes to the ground and try to talk to them. How easily or how difficult is it to have a conversation with these farmers? And also, if you work with the youth, how are you working with them? Mm-hmm. And what are the incentives we can use to encourage more youth to take over from their fathers and grandfathers?
Yes, for the farmers, rightly, they're quite, I would say, towards those level of 60s. Mm-hmm. And one is because of, land ownership issues, because they still own the resources for production. In terms of engaging them and to be able to, for them to take up the new technologies or the innovative technologies you're talking about, Kraft, and also penetrating the market. Mm-hmm. We are using a lot of local knowledge and a lot of local, linkages and networks, mm-hmm. who are able, much more to kind of be able to engage them in a way that they can understand the kind of, information and the messages that are being passed across. Mm-hmm. Let me say that one of the key areas that we are relying on much is if these farmers are organized and they have got, for example, like a cooperative, and the cooperative has got, extension, the people who are doing the marketing, the people who will be able to, even build in terms of business development services, to be able to appreciate that they need to look at farming as purely business, explaining the gross margin per the unit, why are you doing this, you should be able to get this and not get to a loss and all that. As old as they are, they actually know the difference that there is a time you can get a loss and there's when you can get a profit. And they do really appreciate when they see there's going to be a gain. How we bring in the young people, craft as a project, one of the major KPIs is to see that there is a lot of participation by the youth and especially women, and I would call it not women but the gender aspect. It's quite participatory in the whole value chain. And this we are not excluding anybody who is within, whether it is in the extension service or whether it is in the people who are providing machinery, mechanization, or transport and all that. And this is where sometimes you find the youth are much more involved. There are some areas whereby you find the youth have already been given some portions by their parents to be able to practice, do a bit of farming. And in those particular areas, you find that the youth are also taking the lead in terms of ensuring also their parents are able to follow more faster, because they're able to, to process what's the messages that they are being told. So I would say it is a combination of efforts, both by the local people. I think the message is continually being told to them by even the extension officers from the county government, especially the climate match technologies the ones to take. We are really talking so much about taking care of our soils. We are talking of them taking care of integrated pest management, what kind of pesticides and herbicides they're using on the farm. And things to do with the vegetative cover or the way it should be handled and maintained. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When you talk about technology, maybe you can take us briefly on some of the technologies that you're introducing to them. So some of these technologies.
Thank you. One is our technologies are ranging from land preparation to processing. Land preparation, ordinarily we know we have the plows and all that. And the plow, according to experience, it's not one of the best practice, because if you use it quite a number of times, it forms a hard pan where the water does not percolate through the soil. So what we are trying to introduce, or rather promote much more, is the issue of tilling. Yeah, minimum tillage. Don't disturb the soil too much. And there has been quite a number of other projects that have been doing this, and we are working along with them. Conservation agriculture, we are doing that. We are looking at the issues to do with also using the right varieties. For example, like the grains, there are quite a number of varieties that have been developed by a number of research institutions and seed producers, which are drought tolerant. So those are the ones that we are telling them to do that. The issues of water harvesting. Because for agriculture, you actually do not need rain to produce. You need water. So it is the issue of how are they able to harvest the water and how they use it. Using it, it's how they apply it, whether it's going to do the drips, through the the sprinklers and those kind of stuff. Okay. So those are the kind of technologies we are trying to do at the farm level. The other aspect is also at the processing level. We are working with some of the processors to see how they can be able to use much more of the green energy rather than the biofuels, to be able also to take care of our environment. And this is now engaging them through looking at their production system and seeing how we can be able to support them to keep on reducing the use of biofuels, and if they can use something like solar, much better.
Okay. Yeah. There was some research some time back that came out and said our soils were very acidic. I don't know, how are you trading the farmers? How important is it for them to test their soils once in a while?
Thanks. I think probably it's something I should have said when I was talking about the technologies, and good you have mentioned it. One of the aspects in which we are working with extension of teams on the ground, before applying the fertilizers, we are really promoting and emphasizing the need of doing soil testing. And we've been working with quite a number of soil testing companies. And some of the companies, SMEs that we've been working with, they have actually even bought the kits for soil testing and assisting the farmers, so that the farmers can be able to know what kind of fertilizers to apply their soil. And it is true, especially for our areas, especially for potatoes areas, the soil are very, very acidic. So it's something that is already, the project is very, very keen on doing it. And we are supporting even, trying to subsidize even the SMEs to be able to carry out that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know some farmers will be sitting and thinking, so how much does it cost to do a soil test? And how often am I supposed to do it? So I don't know whether that is part of it. How much is it for if I have a 5 acre, 10 acres, or let's say most of our farmers have 2-3 acres. How much will it cost me to test?
A soil test sample ranges between 500 to 1,500 per sample, and a sample is taken per acre.
Okay.
So there the number of farmers in a cluster area, and there's more samples to be taken. That also makes the sampling and the testing much cheaper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. When we talked briefly about land. There's this issue of subdivision of land. Some of the plots have been subdivided to points that they're no longer productive. How we is the project, is Craft also trying to encourage these farmers not to subdivide their land beyond some point?
Thank you. I would say not directly.
Okay.
And of course, this is not part of the mandate of the project. But what you're doing is through the emphasis on promoting the use of the gross margin. When you're talking about a gross margin, you're talking about per unit of production.
Okay.
So by telling the farmers, for you to be able to break even, then you need half an acre. Anything below half an acre, forget it. If you want to, make a particular margin of profit, then probably you need to have an acre. And then you can, that kind of information, and I'm telling you, farmers are also very, very intelligent. They're able to process that, and you'll find that they are taking those, the advice very seriously, especially from the extension. So we are using, it's much more of making, how do we make it attractive for the farmers to be able to, engage in farming through, economic units that are going to make a difference. And if that economic unit means not subdividing the land any further and they find it's good, well and good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go back to market linkages. We've talked about the local market and how farmers can learn how to negotiate for a better price. What about the international market, the export market? We've seen the export market has opened up in the last few years for most of Kenyan farmers. How can they also, are you also training the small-scale farmers to look for market beyond their normal market in the village?
Thank you for that. I would say in our quest to empower the farmers to understand the markets, we are not limiting ourselves to local, national, terminal markets or international, all of markets. And this, we are looking also depending on the crop. For example, the crop that I would say that we are supporting today that has got a good window for export is especially the green grams. With the Asian continent, they really take a lot of it. And we've been able to approach even the exporters and are working with some of those exporters to ensure that this information gets to the farmers. Because, and as I said earlier, it's all dependent on whether the farmers are going to supply the variety that is required, the quality that is required. Because also with the international market, they are a bit much more sensitive in terms of probably the quality, the variety and all that. So we are doing it. We have approached a company like Spice World, and we had the discussion with them, and they're open. And Mahindra also, I think, they're also working with farmers, giving the information on what they want, so that they can be able to take. So we are open, both to the local and the international markets. But you'll bear with me and understand that for staple foods, I think probably 95, 99% the market is local.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When you talk about the support that Craft is giving out to these farmers, is it just training and is it just trainings, or you also provide monetary support?
Thank you very much. For craft, it's let me not call it training, but we look at it from kind of enhancement of capacity.
Okay, capacity building.
Yeah, we are off the issue of taking farmers to class and all this kind of thing. We look at we tailor our capacity enhancement according to the local challenges and problems.
Okay.
So even through our extension, because as a scrap we have a very small team, we cannot be able to be on the ground and do all these things. So our partners on the ground, we really emphasize that they have to really tailor-made the enhancement of capacity as per the cluster, as per the issues. Because you might go to a place, the issue could be the issues of post-harvest handling. And another place could be the issue of probably land preparation. So these things, they should give priority according to the local area. The other aspect in which we are doing is, I mentioned initially, there is what we call the Climate Innovation and the Investment Fund. We realize that there are those gaps and areas whereby maybe the private sector is looking at a gap but is not willing to invest because it might not make an immediate gain or difference in terms of his bottom line or her bottom line. So in that particular case, we identify those gaps that are not making the supply and the demand, kind of link properly.
Okay.
So it could be probably the issue of farmers are not probably using the right variety, the right inputs. They are not having collective points where the market actors can come and buy. So it means that the farmers have to be taken through a capacity building, to be brought together, to start doing buying seeds that are the quality seeds that are required. Also probably access mechanization, which is going to be better than what they are doing. So in such kind of a case, since there are quite a number of activities that need to be done at the farmer level and also the value chain level, we come in, we agree with the SME. It is 100,000 to do all this. So we give in 50, and then they bring in 50.
Okay.
So it's sort of kind of buying a risk. They find it quite a high risk. So when you buy in the risk a little bit, you find they're a bit interested, even including the financial institutions. When they actually, most of the financial institutions, when they hear that you're working with the SMEs and we are ready to, buy some risk, they also get attracted, those kind of SMEs, and lend them money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many partners do you have in a particular region, and what is the criteria of arriving at a partner?
Currently, I would say the engaged partners, we have about 5 SMEs, and we are going to close to about 8 before the end of this month in February, who we are working in and have got business plan that we have done together, and we have got some key milestones that we need to do together. And these SMEs, they are SMEs that are directly linked to farmers.
Okay.
It's not just at their own, because what we try to, the risk we try to buy is the risk that actually the franchises the farmers not to get linked to the market. For one, as an SME to get to us, we are quite open. As I said, we are on potatoes, sorghum, green grams, and beans.
Okay.
And this is a choice which we made because, of course, even the funding and the resources are limited, for every other institution. So for us, we are looking at this particular for value chains. So, and we are looking at that particular actor, be it a market actor, be it a service provider, who can be able to make a change or a systemic change in that particular value chain. So by them giving us their value proposition on how they want to unlock the challenges towards the market, we look at it together, and when we look at it together and we see it is valuable, it is going to make a difference, we now after that kind of do agree and co-create. We make a business plan jointly, and then we see what kind of resources are required. Those particular resources, As a project, we can contribute to a maximum of 50%. But we have a ceiling also,
Okay.
that we can contribute a maximum of about 200,000 euro per enterprise.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has to be 50% or not more than 200,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As a project, are there other challenges maybe you faced as you try to help link farmers to the market that are out there and you have to find solutions?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges which I will just speak very fast is, as a project, we want to work with partners that can make a difference. We know there are many partners, but when you are looking for that particular SME that can make a difference, there are not many. So it's quite a challenge also to get the right match, especially at the SMEs level. We are very, very interested in working with the farmer structures, cooperatives or enterprises and all that. When you go on the ground, these structures are quite weak, extremely weak, to the extent that even the confidence of the individual farmers to work with them is not there. And if it's not there, you can imagine, then even working with it, then you're not going to make a difference.
Okay.
So that has been one of the biggest challenges. Of course, the other challenge is also trying to ensure that farmers now, respect the contracts from, the buyers. Because these contracts, if they are not respected, then it is very difficult for this kind of a relationship to continue. And sometimes farmers, they might do side selling here and there, and yet there has been so much investment by the SMEs. So these are some of the challenges, but I would call them, these are some of the teething problems, because at the end of the day, if they're able to start understanding the long-term gains, then definitely we would expect this incrementally to decrease.
Okay.
Yes.
There's something we would have talked, I'm being told our time is running out, but in less than 2 minutes. We should have talked about the climate change and global warming. How is this affecting crop production at the moment? In less than 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. This is actually the operating system of this particular project. And when we started, we did the climate risk assessment in about 12 counties, where through our partner, CCAFs, and I'm thankful that we're talking KTN, because KTN also gave us a lot of profile that time, and the CCAF person was able to actually discuss on your TV the effects that have been there and the challenges that were there. So some of those challenges were discussed. There are partners who are actually the more technical people. As SNV, we are much more in business and agronomy. CCAFs are much more in the climate risk assessment side. But some of the things that have happened is the issues of temperatures, the issues of volume of the rain at a particular point in time, and those kind of things. The issues of the soil. So these are some of the things that from a climate change aspect, they are very, very clear within the areas that you are working in, because you'll go, for example, to the Lower Eastern. They will tell you that we used to receive our rains from this particular time to this particular time. But now they may tell you, if it was that time, it was for 2 weeks, maybe they are receiving the same amount of rainfall within 2 days, which of course makes a whole difference, and the dynamics change on the ground. So these are some of the issues, and I would say that, our partners are much more, I would say they dealt on that very deeply, which I might not be able to express as they did.
Okay.
I think you had Mr. John Recha, who did it very well on KTN.
Okay. Now going forward, how is Kraft looking at now pushing this to every single farmer going forward?
Thank you. One of the aspects in which we are looking at each and every partnership we are engaging of the SMEs and the farmers. Value proposition among the the on-farm issues and the market. We are very, very keen on sustainability of what they are doing after the project. We are very, very much keen on scalability, because even the SMEs you are working with, we are not working with them for the sake of they themselves, but we would like the subsectors of those particular value chains, or the farmers to be able to understand how to be, to practice those innovative technologies and to be able to link to the market. So we are banking on the sustainability and the scaling, that has been integrated in those particular business cases, which of course every other time we are able to reflect. Every other 3 months we are able to sit with those particular SMEs and see how far they have gone. And we are happy to say, for example, I can point an SME whereby we had agreed within a period of 3 months to have enlisted about 1,000 farmers. And within that 3 months, they had done about 2,581. And that's the scaling we're talking about. Because what we can be able to maybe support in funding will be small, but it should trigger much more impact at scale.
Okay. In terms of the value chains you are working with, you had mentioned a few. Is there a plan maybe to scale up to other value chains in the future if the ones you are working with now do well? And for counties that may not be able to grow some of those crops, are you planning to introduce something for them also?
Well, I would say at the moment as a project craft, it has got a defined period. Over and above that, a defined budget, which funded with very clear KPIs. And we might not have that particular space to be able to expand to the other crops. However, when you are working with these particular crops, remember we are underlining the issue of the climate smart agriculture, the issue of crop rotation. So by so doing indirectly, we are also promoting the other crops. Because what we are saying is, if you have done potato for this half an acre or 1 acre, the next season you should not do it. You should do it until the 5th or the 6th season. So if you have done potatoes, please do beans or do another legume that will actually going to counter some of the issues that are not, the soils get affected by the potato whatever production. So indirectly, we are still promoting the other crops, but taking it a new crop and flagging under craft for now, no.
So which other countries can we learn from when it comes to market linkages?
The market linkages, I would say, the countries that have, quite
especially in Africa, are there countries we can learn from?
I think, I'm not saying we can't learn from the other countries, but Kenya, we are quite ahead in terms of market linkage and our entrepreneurial spirit. But you have got quite also some good examples even in our neighbors in Tanzania and Uganda, where also we have got the craft project going on. And we also exchange quite a lot of notes with a country like Ethiopia. And this is much more especially on the smallholder farmers, how they link to the market.
Okay.
Yes, so with the Asian tigers, they've got a lot to learn from, but of course from our neighbors too.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Alphonse. It's been an insightful conversation. I wish we had more time, but I'm told our time has run out. For our viewers back at home, today we're talking about farmer to market linkages, and with me in studio today I was with Alphonse Mureu, a senior agribusiness advisor from Craft, who has been able to tell us why it's important for a farmer to look for the market first and then grow with the information of where he will sell the crop at the end of the season. Until next time, goodbye.